Hello everybody, my name is Cool Blue, and we are bringing you guys, or I am bringing you guys, sorry, not we, my apologies, I am bringing you guys CasNet Interview number 31, if I'm not mistaken, and this one's featuring the one and only AnneeDroid, not AnneeDroid, because AnneeDroid is weird sounding, but we're featuring the one and only AnneeDroid, and AnneeDroid, would you like to say hello to all the beautiful people out there?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to do this interview and hopefully get to talk about some Dota from my perspective, because usually I'm the one talking about the games, but this is kind of behind the scenes and, well, I've got a good amount to say, so
Yes.
let's get on with it.
And we have a good amount to find out because we want to know many things about you and your Dota stuff. So, give me a quick second. Let me go ahead and get the handy-dandy questions that we're not going to follow out. And go ahead and introduce yourself to us. Let us know, about yourself, just yourself in general, real life, what you do in school, what you do in work, whatever field you're in. Nothing specific, just general.
Alright, well, I am a 20-year-old college student. I'm going to be finishing up my geoscience and education dual degree pretty soon. I'm pretty excited about that, so maybe end up teaching geology. That seems like something I want to do. I'm hoping to do some work in esports. I'm switching to full-time esports in May, so hopefully picking up some more casting gigs, maybe working with some studios, and keeping myself afloat from that. And no, it's kind of a big dream, but I think, if now is not the time to go for it, when is? Just other real-life things. I have a pet lizard that I love more than most people, and his name is Darwin, and he's really cute.
Yes, and I've seen pictures of your lizard. It scared me for a second. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she has a snake!" But it was like legit a lizard. So you said you have a lizard. Do you know what type of lizard it is? Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I researched the heck out of every reptile before I got him. He is a northern blue-tongued skink. He's from Australia, from the northern part of Australia, actually. And I like him because he looks like a snake with tiny little legs that were stuck on like an afterthought. And also he eats cool stuff. Like, I can feed him dog food, I can feed him berries, I can feed him leftover hamburger meat. He's super chill.
Yes, feed him all the things. Feed him all the things.
He's like a garbage disposal.
Except for you can't feed him my MMR. Oh. Oh.
I mean, he's probably better at Dota than I am mechanically, even with his tiny little hands.
Yes, I actually saw the picture you posted. You had the lizard on the computer, and you said you turned into a lizard. So you turned into a guy? It's a he, right?
It is a he. He's a boy lizard.
Yes. It's official. It's official. AnneeDroid is actually, or excuse me, AnneeDroid is actually a boy, which makes perfect sense because there's no such thing as girls on the internet. But we'll get to that question here in a second. So don't jump into it just yet. Just put a little pin in that because we want to know a little bit more about your background. So could you let us know where in the heck did you get the name AnneeDroid from, or AnneeDroid, or AnniePoo, or whatever they call you?
All right, this one's actually kind of interesting. It came from being bullied in high school.
Ooh,
not really malicious, shoved into a locker bullying, but I got really sick in high school and had to start wearing essentially what looked like polio leg braces, the huge full leg metal contraption stuff, in order to keep up and walking. So people started mockingly calling me cyborg, and I didn't really like that. So I'm like, oh, I'm more like an android, and then I realized, wait, my name is Annie. Android kind of works here. So I just picked that, and you pick your Steam name when you're 13 and you hope you like it 10 years later, and I really do. I like Android.
There you go, and it's very unique because you spell it a very unique way, in such a way that it makes me mispronounce it. So, do you have many people mispronouncing your name, or is that just something you do?
I do. I think people just kind of assume that I intentionally spell it quirky, but the real reason it has an extra E in there is because the one without the E was taken in most accounts. So, on Hitbox and Azubu, I have it spelled without the extra E, but on, Twitch, Twitter, all the big sites, you gotta stick that ANNEE in there for good measure.
Yeah, it's just confusing all the world. She has 5 different names. It's all spelled the same way with just extra letters. The E is silent, though. The E is silent, right?
Definitely, sure. It's just one really long E.
Yes, and by the way, Android, hold on. And isn't there an I in there? There's supposed to be an I in there, isn't there? Nope, I'm spelling Android wrong. Okay, ignore me. Cool Blue's bad at spelling. Let's not talk about that. Instead, let's go ahead and talk about how you got into video games, because that's always a good question. Taking away the perspective of, oh my gosh, girl on the internet, or oh my gosh, girl playing games, just you as a person, because like I said, we're going to talk about the whole you being a lady in the scene, because you said you want to talk about that, so we'll talk about that. But for right now, just in general, how did you specifically get into video games?
I you know, I think the big story here is I have an older brother that was always playing video games when I was really little, and like I was never allowed to play because he liked the single player RPGs. Let's go with the Final Fantasy kind of stuff, Fire Emblem. So I would like sit there and watch, and it was so cool that he could like control the people. Oh, that was the best. And I actually didn't really play a lot of video games when I was kind of growing up throughout adolescence until I got sick. Like, I used to be a really big jock. I was like captain of an ultimate frisbee team. I played volleyball. I liked to go running, like to go hiking. But then when I was no longer physically able to do that, I had to vent out that competitive edge somehow, and I found esports, and man, I fell in love with that. I found Dota, and I played it for an entire summer, never stopped, and now I'm hooked.
Yep, and now you're hooked, and congratulations, there goes all your rares. You now have a rare collection. You can sell it all for like $10 total. If you really wanted to. So your investment is there. And yeah, speaking of Dota, how did you get into casting? Because making the shift from video games to casting, I mean, like you said you got into video games because your brother made you jealous of them, essentially. Well, not essentially, but basically made you jealous of how cool it was, and then you had to settle down, you had to get competitive. So you said you jumped straight into esports first, or did you jump into like any solo games, any other games? And then what was the build up to you becoming a caster, essentially?
Well, I think my one video game that I always loved to pieces was Zelda, but I never really played any, like, MMORPGs or anything like that. And then it was actually a bad breakup at the end of high school with a competitive League player that forced me to play Dota, because I was like, how can I get back at him in the worst way possible? And my friend had a beta key, and so he gave me the beta key, we started playing, and then I got totally hooked on Dota. But to get into the competitive scene, I think it was around a little bit before TI3 when No Tidehunter formed. I saw some sort of article on the internet of like, hey, there's this new team that formed, and they had a team picture, and I kind of thought, hey, cute Swedes, I should follow this. And I got really into esports from that. I watched almost every game of TI3. I was entirely hooked with esports after that. And I watched Dota for another year or so. I went to TI4. It was incredible to be there. And then last February, I kind of decided, you know what, I love the casting scene. I love the fact that commentators have their own brand, their own following. That's what I want. I want to do that. So I just started picking up a mic, started casting games off of our Dota 2 Cast It, and kind of went from there.
Nice. So the build up for you was basically you started off as oh my gosh, cute boys, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're just commentating everything.
Let's get real here. It was cute Dota boys. There's a big difference.
Cute Dota boys. Oh, specifically not the League ones, because those guys can go jump off a bridge, right?
Nah, they're jerks, man.
Okay, we say all this jokingly, guys. We say all this jokingly. All games, because from a casual perspective.
I actually play League.
Yeah,
I have a League account, level 30. Woohoo.
Hey, I was level 30 a long time ago. See, I started in League, but then I moved to Dota, but that's not relevant. Moving on to the next few things, because we're going to start getting into the less laughy questions. So we'll start with a more lighthearted one. Could you please go ahead and tell me, how has your experience been as a caster from the perspective of a caster? Just like literally, you can interpret that however you want, but just as a caster, how's your experience been?
It's been absolutely unreal. I found something that I really love to do, and being part of the Dota community is so important because I spend so much time playing Dota. I spend so much time in, Dota chat rooms and stuff like that. Being a caster gives me a way to be in that community when, I'm mechanically kind of terrible. I couldn't keep up as a professional player whatsoever. And casting's also brought me together with a lot of people that I consider to be my really close friends now that I never ever would have met elsewhere.
Okay. And some of those friends that you mentioned, Zimbrella, he's one of them, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we talked a little bit. We worked together, I think, a little bit on the Shanghai quals, so that was fun.
And also Renessa, I'm pretty sure you know her too.
Yeah, we're in the Standard Deviants group together, and that's a big part of where all the friendships come from.
Yeah, and also there's Llama. Are you and Llama? Do you guys chat and talk and hang out and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with her, I think, before she got her quote-unquote big break. We kind of cast a little bit together, some casual tournament matches, and yeah, we've worked together since then. We did some work for the Shanghai Major Open Quals together, and that was a lot of fun, just kind of grinding out for, 8 or so hours at a time. Definitely a great experience.
Okay, awesome. And also, just as a side note, I sent you a message. Yeah, okay,
Yep.
Cool. You responded, good. But yeah, so there's a few other things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about these things later. Right up next is the quick response section. We're going to pause that so we can go and get into our first few topics. The meat and potatoes of this whole entire interview. The part that everybody's watching for. Android, you're a girl in the internet. How has that been for you?
I think, you know, there's a lot of people saying, like, oh, you're so lucky, you're a girl, you have this huge advantage. There's a lot of people saying, oh, it sucks to be a girl, like, it's all harassment, it's all rape threats and death threats. There is definitely some middle ground there. I think there's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. I think Reynessa was the one that outlined it very well in a way that I definitely resonated with. It's, you know, my road to the top might be a little bit shorter. It's not as hard for me to stand out. It's not as difficult for me to grind my way up through a bunch of people just like me trying to get to the top. But that does make me stand out more. There's more eyes on me. I'm under a microscope. Everything I do is overanalyzed, and I'm kind of representing all women, and I don't think that's an accurate assessment.
Okay, and that's also another thing I want to point out too, is like a lot of times we're in situations where there's somebody of a group that's not the what's the word I'm looking for, a person that doesn't belong to the generic group, which for Dota, let's be honest, the generic Dota person is a guy who is either, what's the next thing, but a person who's I'm trying to find an internet neutral way to put this, but basically a white guy, essentially. Let's go ahead and put it like that. Let's just call it that. That's our baseline. So whenever you're something different, everybody kind of looks at you and say, "Oh my gosh, girl!" Or "Oh my gosh, Zyora has dreadlocks. This is really weird. He's not one of us," essentially. But of course, with Dota, it's a little bit more diverse. It's not just that. That's just like the NA Dota scene, kind of. But I mean, there's different countries involved in this. But for the most part, it's pretty much dominated by the male, the white male, and other races that might qualify for that too. So I say all this is a long way to say that trying to fit in sometimes hurts, because either you stick out really hard, like you said, or you just kind of get shifted under the rug and nobody pays attention to you. So you kind of hit the whole "I'm a girl" part, and you're at the top of things. So from your perspective, the criticism that you've received has been, I'm assuming, good or bad?
There's actually a lot of different levels, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Is I'd say there's three real categories of the sexism that I experience. There's people that just give me outright hate. I get hate messages telling me to kill myself, telling me that they're going to rape me, they're going to hurt my family because I'm a woman that wants to pursue Dota. Even in like ranked games or just Dota games in general, when I go into pubs, if I use my microphone and reveal the fact that I'm a woman, sometimes people in alt chat are like, you know, fuck it, we have a girl on our team, we lost, and they disconnect or abandon the game. And it's really offensive. Like, they'll just label me of being a dumb slut or a dumb bitch. And it's like, I haven't done any of that. This is just the way I am, and I want to play Dota. So there's that, right, like, outright, get back to the kitchen, like, fuck you for being a woman. And then there's the flip side of that. That's like a real pedestal. The white knights that want to, you know, they think I need protecting. I'm a young, innocent princess here that needs to be risen up above all the hate. And it's like, I can handle myself, sir. They think I'm too fragile to make it on my own, and I need their help. And it's like, no, I got this. I'm actually tougher than you think. And
correct. Go ahead.
I think the last level, which is probably the most prevalent, is people just not realizing that they're being kind of sexist. And it's not that bad. Like, certainly it's nothing I can't handle. But I was even approached by an organizer for a tournament trying to book me as talent. And I was like, wow, this is great. Like, so you saw my casting, you saw what you liked. This is fantastic that you're interested in working with me. And he said something along the lines of like, yeah, you're a really good caster for a woman. And I'm like, oh thank you. And he's like, yeah,
wow.
I'd still consider you a good caster even if you were a man. And I'm like,
oh, you're making it worse.
Why does it matter what my gender is? I want to be a good caster because I'm a good caster. I want feedback on myself as a caster, not as a woman caster, you know?
Right. And okay. So let's go ahead and take a step back. I will play the devil's advocate. We're talking about the real world. We're talking about human nature. Human nature dictates my perspective, and I believe human nature is a whole. We can have a different argument on this, but we're focusing on the casting world. I'm trying to relate this to things that exist in real life. In the real life world, in, you know, human land, we have the hierarchy of, you know, guy is protector, lady is like the life creator, and guy protects lady so family can happen. So a lot of people, like a lot of things that I see always break down to that perspective, because it's like something that you can't refute. It's something that's naturally built, and human nature explains a lot of things. So that said, transitioning from that into the whole internet land where everybody thinks the guy's a protector, that's where all the white knighting comes in, and that's also where a lot of the people who say, you know, girls should be, you know, making art or doing some pretty picture thing as opposed to doing the commentating, which I find unfair and I find completely unnecessary, especially considering the fact that there's a lot of female casters out there who don't have their name known yet because they're afraid to get out there and do it. So all this goes is a very long way to try to logic out some of the things that I see, and I want to bring this back into a question. And the question that I'll have it turn into will be the question of: do you think people carry the way they believe in real life? You know, with the girl kind of being like, you know, downplayed, and you know, oh, that's good for a girl, or oh, that's you're a good girl basketball player, or you're a good female team, you'll never be as good as a guy? Or do you think that's something that shouldn't be there because, you know, there's no physical limitation in casting really?
I think it's going to be prevalent. I think it's kind of ignorant to say like, oh, it's the internet, none of that stuff matters here. Like, it's a really deeply ingrained viewpoint. I think it's outdated. I don't think it's valid, but it's there. You know, there are going to be the white knights that think I need someone to help me stand up for myself. And it's like, if I wasn't a little bit masochistic, do you really think I'd be in the Dota community? Do you really think I'd want to put myself through all this flame to get to where I am? And, you know, I don't need your help. I'm good where I am. And, you know, every time I post on a forum or post some videos, I get messages being like, you know, essentially like, Fedora tip m'lady, and it's frustrating a little bit because people think I need this help from men, and it's like, I'm strong enough to be where I am right now. I'm a good caster. I'm working on my casting. I'm not working on being a female because that's just how I'm always going to be.
Yes, and also we have accountability. That's another thing we're going to talk about too. We'll jump into that before we get into quick response. If this interview goes really long, sorry people, because we have a lot of things to talk about. But accountability. One thing you mentioned before was that it's kind of not fair sometimes where somebody says, oh, you're a girl caster, so you're kind of speaking for all girl casters. Do you think that's something you see very often that happens, or is that something that just kind of happens every once in a while? Of course, I have my own personal view of this, but I just want to hear what your response would be.
I think that there's a very large unrepresented group of women in Dota, people that play Dota casually, even competitively, that are terrified to speak over the microphone because they don't want to be discriminated by their gender. So when it comes down to the actual public scene, there's a lot of streamer girls, there's a lot of casters that are female that, you know, let themselves know that they're female. They let it be a part of their identity, and I think that's fine, but I don't want to be the person speaking for the girl playing on her own in pubs, scared to let herself know that she's a girl. I don't want to speak for her. I don't know what she wants, how she wants to be represented, because obviously part of my niche as a caster is that I'm a woman, whether or not that's a positive or a negative. I don't know what she wants her identity to be, and I don't want to speak for that. So I don't want to be a voice for all women in the esports scene, because that's not how I see myself.
Right. And of course, on the flip side of that, you have the other part, which is kind of like, you know, if you do badly, if you do horribly, everybody's kind of like, oh, it's because we're on a girl or girls on our team. So that's another...
Exactly. Back to the point of like, everything I do is kind of under a microscope. If I mess up, it's because I'm a woman and I'm dumb and I don't know esports, not because, you know, I made a bad call, just like every other caster makes in a while.
Correct. And actually, Llama pointed out another good one. We're beating a dead horse, sure, but just go with the people because we need to talk about it. But Llama pointed out a good one. Is like there was a game she was casting where basically somebody said something about Dark Seers, like, oh, Dark Seers Iron Shell needs to be level 3 before it does blah, or at level 1, no, Orb of Venom, that's what it was. Templar Assassin's Refraction versus Orb of Venom. People get Orb of Venom to, you know, cancel refraction charges because that's how it works. And Llama said, no, that's not right. Orb of Venom does 3 damage, refraction needs 5 damage, and then everybody, like, Reddit threads later was saying, oh, Llama doesn't even know how freaking refraction works. She said Orb of Venom gets rid of charges. And she was like, no, I was the one who corrected him, for God's sakes. And she was co-cast with somebody. But
yeah, I've had similar stuff to that where, not like such a specific example, but there's been people on Reddit threads that are, you know, about me commenting on the fact that like, oh, this caster's so dumb, she didn't even know that, you know, some certain interaction between something and something. And I am 100% sure I have never even talked about that interaction in any of my casts. I've never mentioned it, so I don't know where you're getting the idea that I've called it wrong. I honestly forget which, it was probably some sort of hero skilling ability, but it's... The fact that people are trying to misquote me to make me seem dumb is like, you know, you could certainly go through my work and find missed calls that are dumb, that I did make mistakes on, but the fact that you have to make one up is kind of silly.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I had to mute a mic, my bad. Yes, I agree. Sorry. So it goes the way of the world. Alright, so we're going to talk more about this. This is probably going to be the focus of everything. We're talking about community from a girl's perspective. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Is that right?
I mean, I don't know if I offer the full picture of a girl's perspective. I offer my perspective as a semi-pro caster. Yeah, I'm a woman, but that's not my entire identity.
What? No, you represent the whole entire girl community. It's pretty obvious. That's why we have you on the show, right? Alright. All right, so moving on to the lighter section before we get back into more serious things, more enticing conversation about gender inequalities and also people being jerks on the internet. Let's be real. We're gonna go to the quick response section. And Annie, do you know how the quick response section works?
Well, I think I see it here outlined in the notes, so I can kind of take a guess.
Okay. No, okay. Serious question. Do you actually know how it works? It's very complicated. There's a lot of rules, and I don't want things to go badly for you.
I might need you to walk me through it. I don't know if I can handle this.
Okay. Good. That's the exact response I was looking for. All right. So the quick response section is very complex. It has a lot of rules. We have a whole entire book written. It's written by 2GD himself. Oh, too soon? Too soon? I'm sorry.
A little bit too soon, bro.
But we have an entire book. All the rules are laid out in a very fine detail. I will try to give you as good of an executive summary as I can. But are you ready? Are you ready for the rules?
All right, hit me up.
All right. You respond quickly. That's it.
Wait, can you walk me through that again? I kind of got lost there.
Okay. You respond quickly. Okay?
All right, I will try my best.
Are you sure? You got all that? That was a lot of information.
I think I can manage. I've gotten this far.
All right. We have faith in you. Come on, you represent all women in okay, let's not do that. You got this.
Yeah, let's lay off that a little bit as I just talked about how frustrating that is for me.
Come on, it's like an easy joke. Okay, fair enough. All right. So, first question. What's your favorite hero?
Skyroth Mage.
Favorite courier?
Hermes, my naked Greeble.
Favorite team?
Alliance.
Favorite caster?
LD.
Favorite event?
ESL Frankfurt.
Favorite book?
I don't read.
Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite TV show?
Fringe.
Favorite movie?
The Princess Bride.
Favorite non-TI event? Oh wait, I think I already said this.
ESL Frankfurt.
Favorite non-TI event again? No. Okay.
ESL New York was pretty fun.
Ooh. And there was another question. Oh, favorite number. Yes, there you go.
6.
And last one is the most important question ever. That's it.
Cool.
All right.
Did I do good?
Yes, you did good. You did better than some. You know, Dragon was slacking last time around. Like I said, Dragon knew on the rules, so yeah, I got this. And like, I asked him a question. He took like 2 minutes to answer. It was crazy. Broke all the rules. He broke all the rules. It was crazy. All right. Okay, so going back into more pressing questions. I want to go ahead and ask you the general question of what do you like about casting and what do you not like about casting. So go ahead and just let us know your general spiel on that one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest thing I like about casting is being able to just do what I love, which is watch Dota, critique Dota, learn from Dota, and it's a way to be a part of the community. You know, people are starting to know my name, people are starting to recognize me when I'm in different chat rooms, and that's incredible to be known as a member of the Dota community just for doing what I love and what I want to do with Dota. And, you know, I mentioned before, it's connected me with some new people that I consider really close friends, and I'm so grateful for that. Grateful that I found Dota, and I don't think I'd be who I am today without it, and that's super sappy.
Alright, and as far as the negatives, because you can't have a positive without a negative, unless you're a neutron, but that's not the point. Do you have any negatives that you have with your whole entire casting experience so far?
Yeah, there's certainly a couple negative things. I think switching from, just an amateur, like, pickup caster to someone that's trying to work as a semi-pro, maybe even getting to the professional world of casting, being able to support myself with it, you have very little control over your own success. It's kind of like a claw machine. Sometimes the people up above reach down, scoop up an amateur caster, and it might not be based on skill. It might not be based on how much work they've put in or how much they want it. It could just be good connections. It could be luck. It's a mix of all of them, but really it's, sometimes you have to watch this person next to you that you've been working side by side with for so long get scooped up and brought into this whole professional world, and you're like, why not me? I thought I worked just as hard. I thought I was just as good. So it's really frustrating. You really don't have control. It's not, according to how many hours you put in or how much you want it. That's not what determines your success. And yeah, another thing is the work is so front-loaded. You need to be so good at casting before you can get really accepted by the community. And the only way you can learn by casting is really to do it. And you can't really be that undiscovered star until you have so many games under your belt. It's not like you can just hop into the scene and explode out of nowhere. you've really got to put the work in before you can be discovered.
Correct. And another thing I want to bring up too, since we're on that note of like the whole discovery thing and putting all the work in before you actually become famous, it's really frustrating. Llama in her interview brought up a really awesome point that I'm pretty much going to mention every single CasNet interview. So if you guys watch all these interviews, thank you. You're going to hear the same question again. But I want to hear your perspective on this. Llama brought up a perfect point with being a caster. Just for some background for you, if you watch the other interviews, you know it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Just for some background, initially I was going to interview with Llama because Llama was a relatively new commentator from my perspective, because, you know, I've been casting for a while, just know, that's all you need to know, just a long time, I have to get specific here. And Llama kind of pretty much shows up in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden she's like casting the BTS house, hanging out with them, I'm like, what the heck is going on, this is ridiculous, and now she's doing all the Join Dota stuff. So my perspective of Llama was like, you know, she kind of just showed up, was a girl, became like super popular caster, and now she's like doing all the cool TI things. But that was my attitude going in. Of course, I'm not going to say it disrespectfully. Of course, I know both sides. I understand. I'm giving you guys preference just to make sure everybody understands my position on this so you don't misquote me. But I came into the interview with the perspective, okay, Llama has been casting it long. I'm going to ask this question. I'm expecting like a neutral ground response where, you know, you becoming a caster, you getting thrown into the scene kind of sucks, but you got to deal with it. But her response was completely different, threw me off guard, and actually it stuck with me for quite a while, and I'm still thinking about it. But her response was that as a caster, you don't get to choose when you become famous. It just kind of either happens or it doesn't, and the community really decides. So her response of you don't get to choose was the main thing that we're building up to. So now that you have more than full context of where I'm coming from this whole position, from your perspective, the whole mantra of you don't get to choose as a caster, do you think that's something that's completely true, or do you think there's not some truth to that? Do you think there's some amount of some number of things that you can do as a caster to become more famous, or do you think it's just more so flat out you have no control over you becoming a famous person?
I mean, I think we talked about a little bit how I think, you know, you don't really have much say over whether or not you get to be in the upper echelons, casting a TI, casting a major, but I know personally from talking to Llama, she worked her ass off to get so good at casting in such a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. She applied to studios, she sent BTS probably like a dozen emails trying to get her name out there, so she worked hard. Mm-hmm. She made sure she was doing the things she needed to do to get where she is, and I really respect that. It's not like she just kind of walked onto the scene, started casting, and people discovered her and raised her up. You know, she really put in her own level of work to get there, and I think that's a big part of it. You know, how much do you want it? How much are you willing to work for it? And of course, it's no guarantee, but it certainly helps.
Okay, awesome. All right, and we're going to go ahead and build that one into another question, which is the excuse. The easy excuse. We talked about this a little bit before, but, you know, somebody says, oh my gosh, girl in my game casting, blah, or girl in my game playing, blah. The excuse that we have of, oh my gosh, you're a girl, so that's why you're doing things. Renessa brought it up in cosplay, was that whenever she's doing cosplay stuff, you know, some people say, oh, she's just, you know, trying to be an attention whore or trying to do this. They don't bring it up often for her because she built her community in a certain way, but it still happens. And she compared herself to another cosplayer who's a male. Like, nobody ever says, oh man, look at him showing or trying to do cosplay anti-mage, show off his pecs or something. Like, nobody ever even comes close to saying anything like that. But yet she, on the other side, she gets the whole okay, because you're a girl, you're just trying to get attention whore, you're just trying to show more boobs and legs and stuff. So the excuse that, oh my gosh, you're a girl, do you think that's something more of a double standard, or do you think it's just kind of something that's fundamentally wrong with the community that we just need to work on?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's fundamentally wrong. I'd say it's fundamentally there. I think it's not going anywhere. Whether it's right or wrong, it's not up to me. It's just kind of a fact that because I am the minority in a community, there's a very outspoken population that's going to fault me for that. You know, there could be, you know, a male white caster that blends in with anyone else that has as much skill or more than me, but he's not able to stand out. And I think that's a big part of casting, is find your niche. What makes you different from everyone else trying to get there? And I have a built-in advantage. I'm a woman. My voice sounds different. I sound, you know, if you listen to a cast, you can easily pick out the casts I'm in. I don't sound like anyone else, but I also work really hard to be a good caster, so I'm not just a woman caster, you know?
Right. So you've taken the time to build up the skills to actually get to where you were legitimately, as opposed to just kind of, you know, doing a live stream where you wear a different shirt that's a little bit too low cut.
Yeah, and I've had people, even just recently when I've been streaming my casting on Twitch, people saying, like, where's your face cam? You need a face cam. Why can't I see your boobs? It's like, because casting doesn't matter what I look like, you know?
Exactly, I agree.
I think that's one of the reasons I love casting, is because it's not built around what I look like. It's built about what I can do.
I agree. I agree. You know, there was I forgot who it was. I think it's somebody I know too. It's Revo, freaking Revo. Well, it doesn't matter. He live streams, and when he live streams, he does like his games and stuff. But I think it was one time where he casted with like his camera showing over like the players. No, no, oh no, I know it was. It wasn't Revo. Sorry, Revo. My bad. It was another person who cast for a different game that we won't talk about right now. But long story short, they had like a picture of themselves, like you know, a little face cam of them casting a game. And I'm like, why do we need to see what you look like when we're trying to watch you commentate the game? And that was from me as a guy looking at another guy casting. I'm like, what? That's stupid. So I honestly think that's something that should go across the board, but it just seems to happen more so often with females. I'm just gonna throw it out there, just like as a
I mean,
as a general thing.
there are men that have their casting style where they like to have their camera on them. I know a couple casters that prefer to do that when they're doing, you know, not professional, but they're just doing casual, like, warm-up casts. And
Yeah.
that's completely fine. That's their style. But I think it goes back to Twitch and the expectation that because I'm a woman on Twitch, I should have a face cam. I think that's a problem with the community. I don't need to be separated from the rest of the casters because I'm a female and I need a camera.
Yep, and that kind of goes back to double standard. It's like something that's fundamentally there, not necessarily fundamentally broken or fundamentally, you know, this or fundamentally that, but just literally fundamentally there, and we need to either acknowledge it or get rid of it. Well, okay, I think we need to get rid of it, but I'm all about the community doing better. So I have.
I mean, I think we can acknowledge it or ignore it, but it's not going to change. As much as we want to be like, yeah, let's get equality in the community, let's get all women treated like people. I mean, even in the real world where there are progressive people working towards it, there's regulations, we're still not 100% there. I mean, I don't really find it impacting my daily life, but in the Dota community, when it's built up so much by men that may or may not be used to working with a lot of women, it's definitely prevalent. There is sexism, and if you can't take the heat, just get out.
Of the kitchen. Sorry.
I was going to say that in the to undermine my own point, and I just stopped.
Don't worry, I will make the point for you. I will take the hit. Sorry, internet. I just ruined really good point. My bad. But yes, I do definitely agree with you. It's like, it kind of goes back into the thing of you got to get thick skin. And oh, that's another thing. We're gonna talk about criticisms and then professionalism. Do you have anything specific that you want to talk about before we move away from the whole you being a girl on the internet thing? Because that's.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you mentioned it a little bit. I get flamed for a lot of things. I get flamed for being dumb. I get flamed for being a slut. I get flamed just because I'm a woman. The one thing that genuinely irritates me, and it's kind of like this whole weird irony, is the only flame that actually gets under my skin is when people say I can't take criticism, or I've got thin skin, or, I can't take any insults. It's like, do you realize what I deal with on a daily basis? So, yeah, ironically, the only one that gets to me is saying I don't have thick skin.
Correct, and also another thing. This is a side note, a side tangent, just to back up your, reinforce your point. There was somebody who posted. It's like a Facebook comment or something like that. It was like a really weird thing, but it was something to do with Facebook. Just basically, sometimes people complain all the time about, they message a girl on Facebook and they never respond, from a guy to a girl, and then from the girl to the guy they don't respond. It's like, oh, why the heck, blah, the internet, the girl doesn't want to acknowledge me, whatever, and good guys finish last, whatever. It was something along the good guys finish last type thing. So one thing that was pointed out by a girl who was on Facebook, just a generic girl, was like, hey, have you ever looked at your Facebook comments? Because like you can go into your Facebook, you can literally go into your Facebook settings, go into your messages, and look at your messages that were filtered out. And I didn't know that existed, like, as a guy, but literally she said she went to her filtered out comments on Facebook because she has a pretty picture of herself, and she has like hundreds and hundreds of messages from people saying, oh my gosh, you're so hot, or hey girl, you want to go on a date or something like that. And then I went back and looked at mine because I was like, I'm skeptical, that doesn't exist. I went back and looked at mine, and I had like 3 messages from like random people. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. So as a girl, there is a little bit more things that you have to deal with that don't naturally come to you as a guy unless you kind of put yourself out there like that. So I definitely do agree with your sentiments of there's a lot of other extra stuff that you got to deal with that people don't, and when they throw out the comment of you don't have thick skin, is like, bruh, have you seen my inbox?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten rape threats. I think the scariest one I got was someone saying they're gonna find me and rape me, and they had a Google Images vision of my house. I don't live in that house anymore, but that was my childhood house, and the fact that they found that is really creepy.
Right.
And a guy that just wants to cast games on the internet wouldn't have to deal with that. And I think there's really no comparison between, in-game flaming or flaming because you're a bad caster and someone fundamentally trying to get to me to hurt me because of the way I am.
Yeah, and it's like I mean the worst that can happen is we can get swatted, but hell, everybody gets swatted. Okay, please don't do that, guys. Guys, that's illegal in a lot of state, pretty much every state in the world. Don't do that. People can die from that. Anyway, but yes, I do agree. It's like fundamentally, there's some things that we as guys don't have to deal with, and from your perspective of people going that far, just I don't. Yeah, the internet. That's our excuse. The internet.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big issue with the veil of anonymity. Like, you're not responsible for what you say. The disgusting and vile things people have inboxed me. Like, would you say that to your mother? Like, how would you feel if I made you read that out loud to your friend group? Like,
Yeah.
that's just inexcusable. So I think people need a little bit more accountability. But again, that's an issue that I'm not going to be the one to fix. I just have to deal with it or get out, and I'm fine with it. If it means I get to cast Dota and do what I love, and I'll take that downside.
All right. So she's willing. She's willing to take the risk. She got this. You got this. We believe in you. We believe in you, Annie. But
Thank
Annie,
you.
I must ask. I must ask at least once on live stream. Do you know what I'm gonna ask you?
If you ask me that, I will hang up.
Fine. I will not ask you the question. Okay. 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 Fine. 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 Only because we made it so far, and we're about to get into professionalism, which is actually fits perfectly with what I was about to say. You know, because it's totally not professional. Let's be honest. So professionalism in the casting scene. Moving away from the whole entire gender thing. Let's go ahead and sweep that under the rug and call it a done deal. We talked about it. Good job. High five, internet, or not internet. Annie. High five.
Thanks.
Okay. Alright, so professionalism in the scene. One thing that I'm always a proponent of as a caster, as a commentator, as somebody who wants to help promote other casters and commentators, I think professionals is something that we all need. Professionals is something that we all should have. So my question to you is, what is your perspective on professionalism? Whether you agree with me or not, I just want to hear your flat-out, genuine perspective on professionalism in the casting scene.
Do you mean like within cast itself,
Oh,
or
sorry,
the whole
yeah.
like do amateurs actually make money? Is this a viable thing?
Right, for more context, sorry, let me give you more context. From the perspective of you as a commentator casting, amateur commentator casting random games. Let's just go with that. So that's our scope right now.
I mean, I think you have to build up your brand and do whatever you want to do. If you want to be a meme caster, that's fine. Be a good meme caster. If you want to be a serious hardcore analyst, do that. But treat every cast like it's the one that's going to make you discovered. And that's something I got some advice from a friend way back when I was like, oh, I got booked to cast this game. It's not really paying me. There's only going to be like 5 viewers. And he's like, but 5 people are taking time out of their day to watch you cast. You don't know who they're going to tell. You don't know if this is going to be the game that blows up, the 3-hour game that got OD Pixel famous. You know, you never know if it's going to be that. So you got to give your all into every cast. And that's really going to improve yourself as a caster.
Awesome. Okay. So you think from a basic level, having some sense of professionalism for yourself is always important. And you mentioned building your brand, which we can add that as a side note to talk about. But staying within the realm of professionalism. So there's a whole entire Shanghai Majors thing that happened. Just in case you missed it, the whole entire Shanghai Majors thing happened, and there was a situation where somebody got in trouble. And may or may not have been escorted off of the premises. So we're not going to name names, but Too Good kind of got in a little bit of boiling water with Valvo, Gaben. Oh, sorry, I wasn't going to name any names. I'm bad. Pretend those names didn't happen. But anyway, jokes aside, being more serious about it, do you think things like that are going to happen more often in the scene as we start to become bigger and bigger and becoming more of the front line? Like, Valve really pushing hard to try to make Dota a professional thing or make it a serious thing? Or do you think things like that are just like one-off situations where maybe they just had a fundamental disagreement with Too Good?
I think I really can't speculate on that. I think there's ways where, it could go both ways. We could stay as that, more relaxed MOBA. We could go the League of Legends route where everyone's in suits and in professional studios. What I do have to say about Too Good is I think he was very upfront about what he brings as a host. And my misunderstanding is Valve kind of knew what he brought. He was never kind of like, he expected to be a super professional follow-up. Like, he's delivered a consistent product for a number of years now, and when he did that in a different setting, somehow it didn't work out. So I think Valve should have known what they're getting into, but again, speculation from my point. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I think each caster host brings something new to the table, and as long as they're upfront with that, and it's a consistent part of their brand, they could have the opportunity to succeed with that.
Okay, awesome. All right, so taking the middle ground, knowing that, hey, there's probably some people who disagree with you, but they should have known ahead of time. So yes, I do agree, and I will throw my quick opinion out there. I think that was Valve's fault. I don't think Too Good should be as downplayed in the community as he is, because they should know what he is, for God's sakes. Jeez, they hired him. Good lord. Anyway, all that. My rage aside on the whole entire situation. Going back into professionalism, as we get bigger and bigger, things like ESPN start happening, and we start getting our games live streamed, and big producers start putting money, and big sponsors start putting money behind it, like Red Bull and all this stuff. As we get bigger and bigger like that, do you think it's going to be of the utmost important for our baseline community become more professional, or is it going to be more important for our front line? Like, and by front line I mean the people like Toby, LD Gods, Zyora, people like that. Do you think it's more important for them to be more professional, or do you think it's going to be more important for the community to be less toxic sometimes?
Well, first of all, if Red Bull's looking for people to sponsor, Red Bull fuels my world. Woohoo! But I think it's useless to try to say let's change the entire Dota community, because we are such a small fraction of a percent of that. The people that are willing to sit here and talk about what the Dota community needs is such a small fraction of a percent. So it's, you really can't do anything but speculate as to what the Dota community should be. It's going to kind of do its own thing. I think the people at the forefront should foster that sense of community and want to make people feel included, want to make people feel like they should act a certain way to belong. I don't want Dota to get all stuffy and uptight and sit there on the panel with your arms at your sides and talk about draft picks. Like, I think we should be able to go back and forth and really make it a scene that makes you want to connect with people, because that's what I liked a lot about esports, is that these are, I guess you could say, celebrities, people that are famous, that have thousands and thousands of fans, but they aren't that out of reach. You watch their interviews, you watch their streams, and they're just people. And if you take away that human element, that jokey, fun, just a guy doing what he loves element, then you're really losing out on a lot of what makes esports great.
All right, and of course, comparing esports, because esports is mainly what this conversation is really about. Not just Dota. I mean, Dota's in there, but esports in general. There was a comparison made between professional broadcasting, and by professional I mean like the classic sense of professional broadcasting, which is in the sense of like basketball, football, golf, whatever you want to call it. But professional broadcasters versus esport commentators, or esport commentators, like you said, have the flexibility to be more jokey, to be more relaxed, to be more fun, whereas professional commentators, for some reason, everybody has a perspective that a professional commentator, like a classically professional commentator, has the room, or doesn't have any room to do that. They have to be super professional 100%. But if you go back and watch some basketball games where they maybe have like a timeout where like the broadcasters just chatting back and forth, their conversation is far from professional sometimes. So, do you think there's a legitimate double standard within society as a whole, like moving up from esports, just society as a whole, with their acceptance of esports and broadcasters? Or sorry, esports commentators versus classical professional broadcasters, to a sense where they're just thinking like, oh, you just talk about a video game? That's stupid. Whereas they look at somebody who's commentating basketball games like, oh, you talk about a basketball game? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even just explaining what I do to friends and family, like, I have to go to family reunions, and they're like, what are you doing for money? And I'm like, I talk about video games. And, that's kind of still like a cliche of like, oh, God, sitting in your basement, never going to go anywhere.
Right.
I think people are slowly understanding more and more that there's actually a scene in this, there's actually a following, and it is going to be, hopefully one day, as big as traditional sports. I think my parents particularly found out, like, how big TI5 was, that we had like a 16-point-something million prize pool, and they're like, oh, so it's actually a thing. You're not just making this all up. You're not just, sitting in your room talking at your computer for hours on end for nothing. And I think it's going to slowly gain that as we do get more money into the scene, because money does talk.
Yes, money does talk indeed. And also, professionalism, well, this will be the last one we talk about professionalism. We'll move to criticism next. On the topic of professionalism, moving into the state of the scene growing, people in the scene growing. One thing that I have a belief, just to give you some context, one thing I have a belief of is that people in the scene, the older that we get, we as in the people who are doing things, the people who are creating content for the community, the older that we get, the more wizened we get, and the less less memey we get, or less wild we get. So the reason why I'm mentioning this way is because I want to talk about people in the scene growing up and becoming older, not necessarily growing up in the sense of stop being immature, but like literally growing up and growing older and being less able to do the mechanical things like Dinty still does. As people grow older, as you have the professional players who are moving from the scene where they're young and coming to the scene and fresh and still hype and all this stuff, to where they're older, maybe can't do as many things, maybe have to retire, do you think that we're going to grow with that, or do you think it's going to be more of a push from the community, like maybe something bad happens like Shanghai Major, and everybody's like, oh, Shanghai Major production value sucks, Valve please help, and Valve's like, okay, we're going to take a harder stance on it next time around. So do you think that's going to come from the scene itself growing and becoming less, or like the veterans becoming more aware of how they affect the scene, or is it going to come more from a Valve standpoint, like a company forcing the whole entire scene to become more professional to do things?
I think at this point, Valve has a lot of control over what the future of Dota is going to be. I think, yeah, the actual player-based community is its own beast, and that's going to grow and change in a way that we don't have a lot of control over. Maybe it gets more toxic, maybe it gets more friendly and welcoming, I don't know. But I think it's going to be up to Valve what their vision of esports is, or what their vision of Dota as an esport is. I'm going to have absolutely no control over that, and I'm going to roll with the punches. If it comes down to being asked to stand on a panel with my hands tucked at my sides and not being able to have fun or breathe the way I want, I think that's going to be a real big loss for people, especially because esports is built on these amazing, unique personalities coming together in a crazy way.
Okay. Interesting perspective. Okay. All right. So I guess we can't harp on that one too much. So we have our perspectives. We have our lines drawn on the sand, people. I think the community needs to become way more professional, but I do agree that if we become too professional, become too snotty and uptight, then it's no fun anymore. It's flat out no fun. All right, moving to the next set of questions, which is criticisms. We're gonna basically break it down the same way we broke down everything else. When it comes to criticisms, there's a whole ton of different levels that people just genuinely don't understand. Just to give people context, because I like giving people context before I ask a question, also for you too. Give people context. When you're pretty much a no-name commentator and you just get started, criticism coming in is relatively light, and when it does come in, it's usually either super negative or super helpful, but like 5 paragraphs long. So my question to you is, how important is it for us as a community to cater and pay more attention to our newer amateur casters? How important is it for us to cater to that? That's the question.
I think, like you mentioned, yeah, as an amateur caster just starting out, I mean, you sit behind the mic, you ramble for an hour, and you're like, what the heck? How do I improve on that? You know, you watch your own VODs, you try to get better. But yeah, like you mentioned, the community, when you're trying to break in, is either like, yeah, this person's the best, let's get them to TI finals, or they're like, this person's absolute trash, uninstall Dota, never do anything again. It's really hard to find meaningful critiques, and I think a lot of the most meaningful critiques I've gotten have been from other casters, solicited or not, like someone watching my video and being like, hey, this is great, even if it's just down to a really basic thing, like, you know, turn your weather effects off, or here's this console bind for directed camera. That's one of the things that helped me out the most and just accelerated my casting exponentially. So I think the community is very blind in terms of up-and-coming casters. I don't think they know how many people are working so hard to get to a point where they're even recognizable at all. And meaningful feedback is hard to get. Like you said, you know, you're going to get flamers, you're going to get people that are all-out super fans, but that in-between line of, you know, your casting's all right, here's how to take the next step, that's what's crucial. Yes.
All right, well done. We think in the same direction. That's awesome. All right, that's always fun to hear. But of course, I'm going to play devil's advocate. We don't have that much time to pay attention to those new commentators. Like, what do you expect from us? Like, from a community perspective, this is me talking as a person who's playing devil's advocate. What do you expect from us as a community? Like, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to go watch those random casters? Do you want us to go watch those random commentators? By the way, I don't agree with this point of view, by the way, guys. But AnneeDroid, could you please respond to that?
I mean, I don't expect the community to watch the random cost casters and like the small pub matches that are submitted on Dota 2 Casted, or, you know, replays with 5 or 6 views on Twitch. It's not reasonable to expect big community members to do that. They want to watch the Na'Vi games, the Alliance games, the big teams, the big names go at it. And I think what the community should do is understand that if there's a new caster brought onto that level of casting, they aren't going to have that experience in the spotlight. Maybe they tilt, maybe they get nerves. Just understand that if I get brought on, or if a new caster gets brought on, we're not going to be 100% perfect, and you got to have that flexibility, because we're going to work so hard to improve and use your feedback. But, you know, please don't flame us outright and say, like, shit caster, never work again, because, you know, I still got room to improve. I still need to work on stuff. It's a process, and you can't expect me to be 100% all there the first day I'm in the pro scene.
Yes, agreed. Nodding my head. You guys can't see that, but I'm nodding my head right now. All right, so criticism, continuing with that line. We're going to talk these comments, or we're going to talk this one to death, because criticism, I have a strong stance on it. Like I feel like people should give more of it and put more thought into it. But all that said and done, all that aside, my biases aside, some people like to take the perspective of criticism by comparing you to somebody who's already out there, who's already been doing this for a while. I just want to hear your perspective of if somebody goes and watch your commentary for the very first time, never heard of you, never knew anything about you. How is your response? Or, so how does it shape your response if they say, "Oh my gosh, you would totally be better if you did some of the things like Shiva did, or if you do more commentary stuff like Llama does, or if you do more commentary stuff like Too Good does, or more commentary stuff like Gods does." Like they legitimately take the moment to tell you that they've never seen before, and then they say you should be more like this professional person. Like what is your general true feelings on that one?
I mean, I think
Hmm.
when I do cast in a professional manner, everyone just assumes I'm Llama because that's a female voice that people have heard. So it's really hard to make my own name for myself. I was casting the other day. Llama has an Australian accent and a deeper voice than I do. I don't think I sound much like her.
Hmm.
But when I was casting, someone was like, "Hey, can you turn Llama's mic up? She's kind of soft." And it's like, well, we could, but Llama's not in this game, you know? So I think there's that. I'm going to be lumped in with the other females. I'm going to have to make my own name for myself. But the feedback I've gotten so far has been a lot of like, wow, it's the female OD. You're a rap god, because I do talk really fast when I cast. And I love that people are comparing me to someone that I view so highly. And I think that's, they found that thing in my cast, the talking fast, the doing the team fights in one just blur of words. They like that. And I can work with that. I can improve that and become more like, OD if that's what they want.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So you're saying that if people keep comparing you to somebody that they think you're similar to, that you're gonna take a little bit more thought process, take a little bit more time to try to build yourself to that direction. So it's like if more people start saying, "Oh man, you have so much good information," like I don't know, insert commentator here. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But you have such good information, you should be more analytical, or maybe you should look up more stats on Tidehunter, maybe you should look up more stats on Earthshaker. Then you'll build yourself to cater to that, or are you saying that you're just gonna keep going the way you want to go?
I mean, for now, I've been casting the way I want to cast. I do my team fights how I want. I really enjoy hype casting, but the fact that there's been a couple people even just sending me private messages being like, wow, like, I didn't realize, females could cast like this, or you could talk so fast. And if that's something that people consistently notice about my cast and like about what I'm putting out from my brand, then that's going to be something I focus on and make a real staple going forward.
All right, and criticisms. Continue on that topic. How have criticisms shaped the way that you think about the community? So, just prefacing this with some context for everybody out there. As a person who consumes content, so a person who literally just sits down, watches some games of Dota, watches some Shanghai Major cast by LD or Gods or whoever's casting it, whoever commentated it, I don't know, I don't remember. But as you sit down and watch stuff, as you sit down and consume content, you're never really, turning your brain on. No offense, you're never really turning your brain on to think of extra things unless you're trying really hard for some reason. You're just kind of relaxing, maybe sipping a beer, eating some chips or whatever in front of your computer, relaxing. As a content creator, your perspective change, or I think your perspective should change, because you cannot walk into things as a content consumer if you want to actually make stuff people want to watch. So I have a personal belief that everybody who starts creating content changes their perspective. So my question is, how has criticism specifically changed your perspective on the community as a whole?
I think I was, I want to say a bit naive at the beginning. I thought I could start casting, do a couple games, and get discovered and suddenly rise up, and maybe not that much of a dreamer, but I thought it would be easier. It's been a very slow grind, and I thought initially the fact that I was a female was going to help me out a lot more. I didn't really see it as a hindrance at first, and it has proven to be kind of difficult because, again, I make a missed call, oh, it's because women shouldn't cast Dota. Like, I'm lumped under that category, so it's been kind of a tougher fight than I imagined, but I think criticism has made me think about what I want to do as a caster. Is this really something I want for myself? Do I want to constantly endure the flames every time I go live? But I just love what I do, and I think it's going to be worth it.
Okay, all right. And the last question to round it up is kind of relating to the whole thick skin thing. One quote that I think back in the Shiva interview, way back in the Shiva interview, which I think was interview number 5 or 12, one of those two. By the way, this is interview number 31, people, so that's a long time ago. But way back in the interview with Shiva, she mentioned the quote that Total Biscuit made as to why he was leaving his whole Reddit thread, and Total Biscuit said that it's kind of like that death by 1,000 cuts. Like, a lot of people don't realize that, a small critique here, a small critique there is like, oh yeah, sure, just brush it off, Total Biscuit, it's not a big deal. But Total Biscuit was like, no, like yeah, sure, it's not a big deal when somebody says, oh, Total Biscuit would be cool if you had a new mic, or oh, hey, maybe you should use AMD computer instead, or oh, hey, maybe you should be more enthusiastic. It's not those small comments, it's a combination of all the things. So we mentioned earlier that you get a whole different section of responses that you got to deal with. But do you believe in the whole mantra of death by a thousand cuts can definitely happen for you as a commentator? And is that something that you feel is going to cause you to have an early downfall, or do you think that's something that you're constantly fighting against, that you have a thick enough skin to fight against?
I actually hadn't heard that expression or that comparison to esports before, and I think it is probably the most accurate thing I've ever heard. There's so much flame, and yeah, someone could be like, hey, you're stupid. And of course there's no actual value to that. They're not actually going through my cast and giving me meaningful feedback in a negative way. It's, it's just some dumb shit. But if you get 1,000 of those, it freaking adds up. You're like, does everyone think I'm stupid? Is that how I'm coming across? My personal perspective on that is I'm always going to get flamed, no matter if I'm big, no matter if I'm small. But I get so many positive support comments as well. So I feel like if the good outbalances the bad, if it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, that's fine. But if it's I'm fighting against constant negativity, then maybe it's not my thing.
And that's basically something that determines if it's worth it for you at the end of the day, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm making a positive impact, if people are going out of their way to send me like, hey, great cast today, like, I enjoyed what you said about blah, 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 or, hey, you sound great, you got a great voice for this, or you really are knowledgeable about this team, that's what makes it worth it for me. And there's going to be people saying you suck, but as long as there's positive comments still coming in, then I think, yeah, it's definitely worth my time.
All right, and of course, we still have a list of questions that we have to follow. Like I said, usually what happens is it breaks down and we don't follow it at all, but we're going to jump back to it, I promise here in a second. Okay, Android?
Alright.
Alright, so another change I want to go ahead and make is content creation. You have a project that you're working on right now, and I'll let you go ahead and tell everybody what it is, but you have a project that you're working on right now, and one of the things it requires you to do is to do a lot of casting. So would you like to go ahead and tell us what that is, and after you give us context, I'll ask you a question based on that.
Alright, so what I have done, I've been planning it for a while here. I got the idea from a good friend that did something similar like this last summer. I really want to get to TI6, so I made a Reddit post saying, submit your replays, any replay ID, I will cast it for you for $5. It's going straight to my trip to TI6. And of course there was a little bit more information on that of my background as a caster, but the response I received was overwhelmingly positive. There was very little flame. People went out of their way to send me kind messages. I am beyond excited about this, but I have bitten off so much more than I can chew here. I'm going to die casting these games, but I will get it done if it's the last thing I do.
Right, and now that we all have proper context, the question I want to ask you is, in the realm of content creation, we as commentators, we have to be basically continuously putting out stuff. Like legit, I've been casting for long enough to where I have 600 videos on YouTube, just me commentating, and like that's no joke. I can bring it up right now and show you guys 600 videos, way back, 2013, back when I was casting then. So a lot of content comes out of commentators. So from your perspective, you had this project that you're doing. You had to do 200 reviews or 200 casts and commentaries, and that's basically like, let's say on average 45 minutes per cast. The amount of time that you have to put in to create that content, is that something that is that something that you've kind of accepted already as like a thing that's like an occupational hazard, or is that something that you feel people undervalue that you kind of sacrifice for?
I think I knew what I was going into it. I thought I wouldn't get such a crazy response. I've had to start turning down casts just because I want to pride myself on being able to turn over these replays in a decent amount of time, and waiting, a month and a half to get your replay back doesn't exactly show a lot of professionalism, but I think it's difficult. I'm gonna be drowning, and the amount of work is gonna be absolutely overwhelming at times, but I gotta keep in mind this has so many positives for me. Not only is it money to put towards my TI trip, it's casting practice. I'm gonna see things in games that aren't professional matches that I wouldn't notice in terms of item pickups. It's gonna help my own play, it's gonna help me notice things about future casts, and it's also gonna get my name out there in a very unique way. Not just from the Reddit thread, but I submit a cast, I put out the cast on YouTube, there's going to be at least one person watching that, and that's my name getting known, slowly.
Yeah, slowly but surely. And you're going to grind through all those games, and you're gonna invest all those hours because you think it's ultimately worth it for you as you move along in your casting prowess, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not necessarily a publicity stunt, but it's something that is going to help me in a variety of ways. It's going to get my name out there. I'm going to be able to put out a lot of content, maybe get known as a content creator, and I think overall it's going to pay off.
All right. Awesome. Okay, now we can finally proceed to number 11, which is funny because there's number 9 and there's number 11. So I completely left number 10 off. My bad. So question number 11 on the list says some of the pros and cons of the community. So we've talked about a ton of different topics. Or actually, we talked about specifically gender, professionalism, criticism, and content creation, essentially. So we've talked about a number of things. Community was mentioned very frequently. Could you give us just a general summary once again? Because you mentioned it before, but I just want to hear it again. Just a general summary of some of the pros and cons that you see of the community at large, and we're speaking specifically Dota 2 community.
All right, so I think the Dota 2 community has a bunch of cons when it comes to actually sitting there in the pubs playing the games. I think there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of negativity, and that does translate to casting. When I'm a new caster, maybe I make a bad call, or I'm working on a game with a team that I've never seen before, so I don't know their stats, I don't know their lineups, and I think people expect me to be perfect, and that's that's a really big task to live up to. So I think that's a con, that people say, you know what, you work in the community, you're a caster, you're casting this game, you better cast it perfectly. And it's like, I'm not being paid for this. I'm an amateur caster. What do you want? And I think that gets counterbalanced by the cons, which are people, again, just going out of their way to show support for me, even if it's just in the Twitch chat after I'm done saying, hey, nice cast, or like, nice job with that one. That means the world. The fact that people are taking their time to watch me, the fact that, even right now on this interview, there's a couple of people thinks that this is the most important use of their time, watching me, hearing what I have to say, that means the world. Yes,
it means the world indeed. It makes it all worth it. And just before we go into the breakdown, let's break that down now. So the thing you brought up was expect to know everything. Sorry, we're gonna kind of rewind a little bit back into content creation. So back into content creation, one thing Zimbrella, I think Zimbrella brought this up. It was either Zimbrella or Dragon. I want to say Zimbrella brought it up. But one thing that he brought up, or one of those two brought up, was that a lot of things that people don't realize is that the amount of work that gets put into like doing stats, like in general, just doing stats for Dota is a ridiculous amount of work, because you got to go through, find the stats, find out what they mean, do the reading, do the research, and then find out why it exists. And if you can explain all those things and then bring it into a commentary, you've done a ton of work. And side note, before I let the question go, DJ Wheat, he commentates on StarCraft stuff. I think he's retired now, but he used to commentate on StarCraft stuff. And one criticism that he always got was that, hey, DJ Wheat, you should do more research on your games. You should research why people build drones this soon. You should research why people build Zerglings. You should research why Marines are so effective and blah. So DJ Wheat said he literally took the challenge. He said, all right, so for 3 games in a row, for tournaments coming up, for 3 games in a row, he said he actually took the time, sat down, and went through the stats and found all the stats. And then he bought some stats on the players and what they like to do, why they like to do it, what their timings are. And he said that was one of the most fun times that he had commentating after he took the time to invest in finding the stats. So that's a story that I'm going to mention on the side, just for anybody out there. Stats takes a lot of work. People don't do it, or we commentators sometimes don't do it because that's a lot of work, but it is sometimes rewarding. Anyway, going back to my original thought, which is expecting you to know everything. Do you think it's fair for people to expect you to know everything as a content creator when you're spending so much time actually just casting the darn game that they expect you just to know why refraction charges don't burn with Orb of Venom, or what level Ion Shell has to be to burn refraction charges, stuff like that, like little annoying nuances? Do you think it's fair for people to expect that, or do you think it's something that just kind of comes with the territory?
I mean, I think to be a perfect caster, you would know that, but overall it comes down to the final product you're putting out. And I know I personally work a lot with stats people in my casts, and shout out to the Standard Deviants putting out amazing stats people. Even just stats prep docs are the most helpful thing I've ever worked with. Just stats on the teams, their frequent pickups, their favorite items, win rates on Dire, Radiant, all sorts of breakdowns like that. I think it's fair if you're casting a big game with people that want to know everything about the teams, because it is about the teams in the end. You should have some knowledge on why they're doing the things they do. You can't kind of be like, oh, Dendy's playing Batrider mid, I wonder why he's doing that. You gotta know and be able to explain why the things are happening to the audience. That's the point of casting. And there's gonna be little nuances that I don't know, but it's my responsibility as a caster to put out the best product I can. So the more time I spend with that stuff, the more time I spend using stats, the better. I remember there was this one game, it was an NA game for We Play. I don't recall exactly which one it was, but I actually got some advanced warning on this one. Usually I'm brought in 15 minutes before. So I spent a couple of hours just making my own little prep doc, finding out what the lineups of the teams were, what their recent pickups were, past lineups that these guys were on, because it was kind of during a roster reshuffle. And it was my most successful cast. I had so much knowledge to put out in the draft phase. And one of the comments in the YouTube video that totally made my day was like, holy crap, Android's an encyclopedia of Dota knowledge. And the fact that people noticed that I put in so much time to get that information together and I was able to present it in a cast, that's one of my most confident casts.
Nice, awesome. All right, so yes, investing in those stats. People expecting you to know everything, I think is not fair. But yes, if you ever do put the time in, I think you deserve the gold star. You deserve a cookie. I'll send you a cookie in the form of you going to a website and you getting a cookie. There.
All right.
There you go. All right, so moving on to the other part, you talk about the pros of the scene too. So one of the cons was people kind of expecting you to know everything. One of the pros that you mentioned, I forgot what it was. It was so long ago. Do you remember what the pro was?
Just having people take time out of their day to show support, I think, is the biggest one.
So how important is it for you to know that people notice you? Hold on. Sorry. That question laying by itself sounds bad. My bad. Let me give you that context. It makes me feel great whenever I look at my YouTube and I see, oh, I have 2 new views, or oh, I have 3 new views. So I think it's from a perspective of I made a thing and people actually took the time to watch it. I agree with you. It feels really good. But my question of how does it feel to know that people notice you? I don't mean that in a negative way, because I know that can be taken negatively, but just want to throw context for the community for you guys go wild in the Reddit threads. Go ahead.
Honestly, I don't even think the first way you phrased it was that bad. I'll own up to the fact that one of the reasons I love casting is because it makes me get a little taste of that pseudo-celebrity. I'm sitting there casting a Navi game. There's 35,000 people watching. You know, I'm big, I'm huge, and that's a great feeling. And obviously you don't want to get yourself get caught up in that, but I think that's fantastic. And the fact that, you know, people remember my name means so much. It makes me feel like I'm having an impact. And you mentioned, you know, just seeing that there's new views on your YouTube, seeing that people watching me on Twitch, it's a fantastic feeling that my content, something I'm contributing, is worthwhile to someone.
Awesome. All right, and we're fortunately getting to the outro questions now. We're past all the awesome discussions. I think so far we're doing good. So stay with me, Annie. We're good. We're almost there.
All right.
We're almost there.
I can make it. I can do this. I got like 600 replays to grind out. I can definitely make it through this.
Right, cool. Just taking all the time right now. All right, so aside from playing Dota, what other games do you play for fun?
I play some TF2 just as kind of like a cool down. I'm super casual at it, so don't expect me to compete. I like to sit there and click the buttons. I'm also ridiculously good at Tetris. It's like one of those weird hidden skills, so I can grind away an afternoon just playing Tetris. It's a lot of fun. I mentioned before, I'm a huge Zelda fiend. I'm excited for the new open world one they're putting out. Might have to get a Wii U for that, but other than that, it is a lot of Dota mixed with some indie games on Steam.
Nice. And going back quickly to the Team Fortress 2 part, what is your favorite class to play?
Depending on the map, I usually like Engineer, but on Harvest King of the Hill, I play a mean Pyro.
Nice. Yes, Pyro and Scout, those are my 2 favorite ones. I like Scout. I'm really bad at Scout, but I love playing Scout. But Pyro, give me the basic one. I'll just blow people off the map. That's all I'll do. Sorry, in the wrong context, that sounds really bad. Moving on. What other games do you play? I already asked that question. What other things do you do besides play games there?
I do work in a geology lab, so I get to do all sorts of fun geoscience stuff with that. I get to organize fossils and sort rocks and test tubey stuff. It's a lot of fun. And besides that, me and my lizard hang out, watch Netflix together.
Nice.
He's like a free-roaming lizard, so he lives in a cage, but I let him just walk around on my bed or my desk, and he's super chill. He'll just fall asleep on my mouse pad.
Nice. And is he currently lurking around now?
Oh, he's on my shoulder right now.
Aww. Sorry. I mean, yeah, that's cool. All right. And do you have any interesting talents that you would like to mention before, or to the internet? So any interesting talents that you would be okay with telling the internet?
Again, I'm really good at Tetris. I don't think I've ever been beaten in like a head-to-head 1-versus-1 battle. Let's see, what else? I can hold my breath pretty long. That's pretty good. I used to be a competitive swimmer. That was fun.
Really? See, I don't. I hate swimming. I know how to swim now, but it took me a while to learn. And like, it's like running without being allowed to breathe. It's ridiculous.
And and I'm not scared of reptiles whatsoever. So if we're going hiking and there's like a snake in the path, I just pick it up.
Okay, so
all my friends appreciate that.
You would be totally leading the hike. I would be like, oh my gosh, snake. I mean, I'm a man, but can you handle that, please?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
It's like, don't worry, I'll defend you from the stick. And just like throw a stick at it and run away. Alright, moving on, the last question, actually next to the last question, is do you have any shoutouts that you would like to make? Like any shoutouts to people, any shoutouts to groups, any shoutouts to anything that you would like to make?
Big shout out to the Standard Deviant Stats group. It's not just stats people, there's also an amazing group of casters there. We all work together, we all support each other. You know, if I need a co-caster last minute, I can be like, help, I need someone, and everyone steps up. It's a very supportive group. We all play in-houses together every once in a while. So, huge group of friends there, and it's one of the reasons the casting has been so enjoyable. Thank you guys. Also, a shout out to Ted Casts, or Chicago Ted, whatever he's going by these days, for helping me along the way. He was one of the first co-casters I worked with. We've grown together over the last year. We're still casting the same tournament. We're in the 4th season of it now together, and he's the guy that gave me the idea and helped me set up my replay casting project.
Nice. Okay, yeah, shout out to you, definitely. And oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. Jeez, I'm so jealous. So jealous I didn't think of it. Darn it, Cool Blue, you had one job. Alright, and last but not least, where can people find you if they want to find more about you? Because, I mean, we have your awesome Twitter, your awesome Twitch, and your Facebook page, so just go ahead and throw a blurb out there verbally for everybody.
Alright, so the easiest ways to reach me, the ways I'll respond the quickest, are tweet me at Twitter, twitter.com/AnneeDroid, AnneeDroid. Also Reddit PMs, I'm really quick at responding to those. It's just the same handle, AnneeDroid. Email anniecasts@gmail.com, and pretty much anywhere else. I'm not so active on my Facebook page, but if you just kind of want to join the crew, leave a nice message, I'd super appreciate it. And all the replays I'm going to be doing are uploaded to my YouTube, which has nonsense letters as a URL, but it is linked on my Twitter and my Twitch.
Yep, and all those links, of course, will be linked in the description below on the video if you guys are watching this later on YouTube. So definitely go check them out. Definitely go check out everything. And Annie, we are finally at the end. Can I at least ask the question once, please?
Alright, you can ask the question once.
Yeah. Are you going to hang up if I ask it?
No, I'll stick around.
Yes. Alright, Annie, are you okay?
Oh, no.
What, really? Do you need help? Is everything okay?
I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm excited to get to these replays. I gotta start chunking those out. Yesterday I went for, I think, 15 hours straight before I dropped. And hopefully I got another 12 or so in me tonight.
It's like a day job. It's gross. Okay.
I mean, I'm getting closer to my goal of going to TI, which is gonna be absolutely worth it.
I know, but gosh, it's gonna take like 3 months to do that. I'm just like, it makes me feel gross thinking about it. I don't even want to. And then somebody probably sent you a few hour-long games. Oh my gosh. Good luck, best of luck in your future ventures. And speaking of best of luck, thank you guys for watching, and best of luck to you for watching this interview. I don't know, this weird outro. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. You guys are all awesome. Of course, we just brought you the interview with AnneeDroid, or sorry, Android, not AnneeDroid, or Annie for short, or Android. So definitely go check out her links. Her links have been on the screen this whole entire time. If you guys are watching this in some other means or you're listening to it, then check her out at AnneeDroid on Twitter. So go follow her there, and she's responsive, she's cool, she's awesome, she's hip, and she has red hair. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, not naturally. It's super dyed. Like, I'm not no ginger or anything.
She has red hair, according to the dye that she bought. There. Yes. She owns red hair. You own red hair. There you go.
I do own red hair.
There you go. Alright. So definitely go check out her stuff. Of course, be prepared for more interviews in the future for CasNet. I don't know who we're going to be interviewing next, but I'm looking forward to it as well. But definitely thank you guys very much for watching this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, we will see you guys whenever. And girls. Guys and gals. We'll see everybody whenever. How about that? Let's just go ahead and be neutral. Bye, guys.